Thank you, Rob. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Luke Cantrill and I'm a 2020 Nuffield Scholar. Many people in this room would have had some exposure to the recent China tariffs and bans, and as a result of our own experience, we want to look out for new markets. My topic of study is export opportunities in the ASEAN region. Big thank you to Woolworths, my sponsor. Although domestic retail can be quite cutthroat for many producers, I have to say that we've been very fortunate to have great support from Woolworths. The partnership we have with the organic category team is one that I'm very grateful for, and and Woolworths have provided significant support to us, which has enabled us to grow and scale our business. I wish to extend my gratitude for their support and sponsorship of my Nuffield Scholarship. This is us here. This is Cantrill Organics. It's a small family business. Saying that, we're Australia's largest certified organic cherry orchard. Our family's been farming in the Orange District for about 170 years. We supply to Woolworths, Coles, IGA, and focusing strongly on export sales for future. We have 60 hectares of certified organic land. It's a cool climate. It's located just outside of Orange. It's nice volcanic, highly fertile, basalt soil, and we grow at about 1,000 metres above sea level. 20 hectares of this land is organic cherry production. Back in 2020 and 22, we were very fortunate to be a recipient of the Woolworths Organic Growth Fund. This has enabled us to plant more cherries, essentially doubling that 8,000 to, I think it's 20,000 now, cherry trees, and that's more than doubled our production, and also to install Voan rain cover from Germany, which is protecting 5 hectares of the crop, which is a massive risk management tool for us into the future. We also have a future focus on a new vineyard. We're doing a hectare of organic strawberries, a bit of a trial this year, agri-tourism, value-add products, and we're dabbling with a bit of organic medicinal herbs and flowers for a company in Sydney. The following presentation is a general overview of the ASEAN region for export, which I'm seeing through a horticultural or cherry lens, but it can be applicable for other Australian agricultural products. Again, I'd like to thank I better stay with it. I would like to thank my sponsor, Woolworths. I'd also like to thank Austrade and New South Wales Investment for helping me connect and access international staff and for answering my long list of questions. Nuffield Australia, I wish to thank Jody, Nicola and the team. What they did for us was incredible, and just thank you for your continued support and patience since 2019 and determination to get us overseas. Thank you. I'm very grateful to the Nuffield family for this whole experience. I'd also like to thank my wife Lee for her continued support, and as well as my children Ava, Jack and Alana, who took my travel absence in their stride. I'd also like to thank my GFP hosts for opening their farms, homes and knowledge. Back in 22, we were finally able to go, just last year for the GFP. I was fortunate to travel to Singapore, France, United Kingdom, Canada and the US. And then on my independent travel, I visited Malaysia, the Philippines, Thailand and Vietnam. I'd like to acknowledge my GFP travel companions, many of you in this room right now. I consider myself very lucky to have travelled with such a high calibre of young farmers. Thank you for the great conversations in the van and our debriefs at the end of the day. So why export? Well, Ag 2030 is the federal government's plan to increase agricultural production to reach $1 billion, which is well on track. Yet Australia produces 3 times more than we can consume. We must export to new markets to remain viable. For the Australian cherry industry, huge plantings of new cherry trees in Tasmania and Victoria have taken place over the last couple of years. When these trees come into full production, unless we are successful exporting internationally to numerous locations, we could destroy several smaller domestic businesses, particularly on the mainland. Mainland cherries, which don't have the access of Tasmanian cherries due to fruit fly concerns, are facing a potential catastrophe unless we open up more international markets with better post-harvest protocols to allow for better mainland cherry access. Experience has taught us that we need to move all our eggs out of the China basket. A lot of exporters were heavily exposed when China banned or slapped onerous tariffs on numerous Australian commodities. With China in the market, we can't grow enough cherries. Without them, we face overproduction. We can't rely on politically unstable relationships, and diversification is just important in markets as it is in the commodities that you can produce on farm. Other benefits of export include export provides a competitive advantage over domestic competition. From a macro level, exporting helps Australia's balance of trade and in turn national security through the business and communication channels that it creates. Exporting can lead to promotion of local economic development through more employment, increased investment and innovation. The ASEAN region is an economic and political bloc made up of 10 member states in Southeast Asia. Member countries include Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand and Vietnam. It has a population of 600 million people and is growing. The region has a combined GDP of $3 trillion, which is estimated to reach 5.8 by 2028. So in 5 years, it's going to double. The region is set to continue this growth at an average of 4% to 2040. So it will essentially become the fourth largest economy in the world, behind the United States, China and India. Geographically, this economy sits right above us, so we're nearly in it. Nearly all countries have a rapidly growing middle classes. Middle class income ranges from $50 to $150 per day. And another benefit is the whole region are heavy social media users, which provides tremendous targeted marketing potential. For example, the Philippines, with a population of 113 million, has 89 million active social media users. And this was proved to me in the taxi from the airport to the hotel, where my taxi driver neighbour, he made a number of video calls while driving along the freeway with me in the back. But Brand Australia is also strong. Australian producers have great brand recognition, and most Australian commodities are seen as premium quality. Just in July, September quarter of 22, we saw a record increase of agricultural imports or exports, which was 27%, which equated to Australian $13.4 billion, and 1.2 billion of this revenue was in horticulture. The whole region is transforming dramatically, and most of their people of the populations are young, educated, aspirational, and very brand aware. So the opportunities. Opportunities exist across the board, from fresh produce, agricultural commodities to ag tech. They want what we produce through the excellent quality of commodities that have been exported by previous generations. We have a great international reputation for which current and future generations need to maintain and uphold. Many of the ASEAN countries have family that have immigrated or studied in Australia, so there's instant brand recognition for most Australian products. As much as we are looking to diversify from China, so are they. Most ASEAN countries have heavy trade exposure to China, and interestingly, there's a few Australian staff mentioned that a lot of countries in the region are starting to look away from the United States as well. So this provides Australia many opportunities. They are looking for as many supply options as possible, so not to get caught out in any new potential future pandemics or for any potential future conflicts in the area. In terms of freight distribution, we're only a 10-hour flight away or 21 days at sea. Singapore, being an open market, is a great place to test your product, and the theory is if it sells well in Singapore, it'll sell well in the rest of Southeast Asia. The challenges. Market access is still a huge challenge for Australian producers, and it takes years of work to go through those government machinations. Countries such as Singapore and Malaysia are open and relatively easy. Thailand, Philippines and others do present some challenges that need further work at a government level. When exporting to the ASEAN region, you're entering a truly world market stage. For example, in many supermarkets in the countries I've visited, I saw produce from all over the world. You need your produce quality and marketing to be at a high level to stand out, carve out and defend market share. Because of the highly competitive and connected nature of the market, most markets are price sensitive, so price does matter. Austrade staff advice was if you focus on the ASEAN region, don't drop at the first sight of China reopening a market. Many Austrade staff told me of the frustrations that a lot of buyers had was that they had spent time and money establishing what they thought were solid relationships with Australian exporters, only to be dumped for China. Try and maintain a market presence in the ASEAN sector as well as China if possible. I asked trade representatives I met with, what can Australian exporters improve on when exporting? And all of them said that we need to support our produce or commodities better in market. A lot of the time we send it, think it's Australian, it's great, it'll sell itself, but we don't support the importer or the retail outlet on the other side. You must have all your marketing, your story, your website, any educational information regarding your product ready to go, and give it to the importer and make sure that they understand it and that will help you promote your product. As Jerry Maguire would say, help them help you. The US, New Zealand and Chile do this very well. You also need to know the idiosyncrasies of your market. So for example, in Malaysia, there are 3 distinct communities, the Malay, Chinese and Indian. And there's a national public holiday for each community. The government also has a history of throwing spontaneous public holidays. For example, after the last federal election win, the new Prime Minister threw a 3-day holiday straight into effect. So you need to be aware of this in case you have fresh produce sitting on a tarmac somewhere in 35-degree heat. As in most areas of business, relationships are critical to export success, and with that, patience is key. If you can develop a successful business relationship, a lot of Asian companies will trade for generations if they can get good quality with reliable supply with good relationships. Be aware of cultural differences when building business relationships in Asia. As Australians, we can be very upfront, yes or no, black or white. This is not how business is done. Start your meetings informally, discuss family, interests, general discussion, and allow them to bring business into the conversation, and just allow this to happen naturally. Never cause embarrassment. They'll not try to embarrass you. They must maintain face. Asian business partners rarely tell you no directly either, so you need to read between the lines. And also use your story. Your story has great currency. And it doesn't matter whether you're a 6th-generation farmer or a 6th-month farmer. A well-told story creates immediate authenticity, provenance, and helps connect with customers on an emotional level. And most importantly, it builds trust in the market. Australian government bodies, both state and federal, as well as industry, provide excellent resources of knowledge on how to get started into export. There's a great financial support with grants such as the Export Market Development Grant, an eligibility-based demand-driven program. However, where we lack is boots on the ground. There is not enough staff at the Department of Ag to help process all the new market access applications for all the different commodities we produce. Deals are currently done negotiating in countries with a basket of commodities. For example, cherries might be grouped in with table grapes, citrus and grains. If your commodity is not on that list, for example, berries, it may be a 10-year wait before your turn comes up again. There is also a lot of political horse trading in other political areas that affect market access. We need more funding for more resources for these departments to push for greater market access for Australian produce. We are behind and we need to catch up. The Asia Institute recently reported that Australia invests more money in New Zealand than with all the ASEAN countries combined in terms of export investment. Last week's announcement of the federal government's $95 million investment in the ASEAN region is to 2040. So this equates to $5.5 million a year. In contrast, the USDA spends $200 million a year just on market access alone, with US $13 million or Australian $20 million in the ASEAN region. Their research has conducted that for every $1 spent by government on market development, it returns $24 in export gains. So my recommendations are the Australian government to increase resources and focus on greater market access for all commodities in the area. Austrade staff told me the continued work the USDA and New Zealand governments do pushing for market access and supporting existing markets, particularly during peak season for each commodity. We also need industry bodies, either side by side or straight in after, pushing for their industry's access. We need to invest more in access into this region for what is soon to become the world's 4th largest economy. Cherry Growers Australia also, I believe, needs full-time professional governments. In a normal season, Australia produces $250 million worth of cherries. This will potentially be going to $500 million over the next decade. Yet CGA staff are semi-permanent or volunteer staff. We need full-time professional governments with a CEO, CFO and marketing team to push the government for market access and promotion of Australian cherries. The ASEAN region is a rapidly developing market, which geographically sits right above us. an economy predicted to double in size over the next few years, with huge potential for Australian agricultural producers, now and for future generations if we manage it correctly. Thank you.